Hello everyone, you listen to J Movie Talk, episode 331, as I'll be talking about some of my favorite vampire films. So with this episode, reason why I want to talk about some vampire movies is because of the new film by Ryan Coogler starring Michael B. Jordan, Sinners, is coming out. So I wanted to revisit some of my favorite vampire films, that help kind of define the genre, flip the script, and brought unique voices to the bloodsuckers, right? So with that, because one thing about me, I've always enjoyed vampire movies. Ever since I was a kid, I love vampire movies, and some of the movies that I'm going to talk about on this episode are the reason why I am the way I am when it comes to vampire flicks. One thing that I can say is that vampire movies, a lot of them are more than just about, the fangs, blood, I can't be in the daylight and things like that. They add a lot of mythology and, different things like that, where each movie is very different and has its own, spin on what vampirism is and everything. So that's kind of one reason why I wanted to do this episode. So without further ado, let's get into talking about some of the films that I enjoy that are vampire films. So first up, I'm going to kind of go with a bang here, and that's 1985's Fright Night, with stars Chris Sarandon and everything. What's his name? Roddy McDowall is Peter Vincent. Shoot, I'm having a mental moment for a second. Roddy McDowall is Peter Vincent and everything. And I remember the first time I saw Fright Night, which I actually did not see when I was a kid. I actually saw it when I was much older, and everything. But I know watching it, that movie has a lot going on, in a lot of ways. One, you have this thing of where no one wants to believe the teenager that a vampire is living next door to him until everything goes to hell, and by that point it's too late, and it's basically a fight for survival against this vampire and everything. And it's a fun movie because there are some goofiness, that kind of goes into it. But then it gets real serious and very self-aware of what it's doing and what it's saying, that goes beyond the film itself. And I have to say that Chris Sarandon as the main vampire and everything, he does a great job here, because as the viewer, just like Brewster knows that he's a vampire. So it's this kind of, I'm gonna play in your face type of thing that he does, kind of going back and forth with him. And he literally does play in his face quite a bit throughout this movie. In some ways it's playful, especially like the first time we see him, he done pulled up in this man's house and he flirting with his mother. He's playing in his face at that point. And it's like he don't know what to do about it. And you could tell he's furious. But it's like, what is he really going to do? No one's going to believe him anyway. So Jerry just, he leaves and everything. Like, all right. Or when they call in, they call the cops and they go next door and everything. And they go in and he's trying to prove like he's a vampire. He killed this girl here. And it's like, there ain't no bodies here and everything. But he's giving him this look like, all right, okay. So now you want to get serious. So when things really get going crazy, and he ended up chasing because she's always going to be freaking Marcy from Married with Children, which is always kind of interesting seeing Amanda Bynes in this before she did Married with Children. It's like, I don't know why she didn't do more outside of what she ended up being best known for on Married with Children. But that whole sequence in the nightclub when Jerry pulls up on her and, they dance, and it's a very sexy dance on the dance floor and everything. He's still playing in this man's face, and then he turns her into a vampire, right? And that's what it was. He turns her into a vampire, turns his best friend into a vampire. at that point it's like, all right, it's too serious or whatever. But this movie has always been a standout when it comes to vampire films anyway, just because of how it's, how it's presented, and the fact that it's very, like I said earlier, it's very self-aware, and it knows what it's doing as a film. And like I say, a lot of the undertones that's in the movie is fully aware of what it's doing and everything. So that's one of my favorites. I'm not so much big on the remake. When the trailer came out, I didn't even want to watch it or whatever, and I still have never watched it. So if anyone listening that probably have only seen the remake and never seen the original, I definitely recommend you check out the original. So the next film is from 1973, and I'm talking about Ganja and Hess, which stars Dwayne Jones and Marlene Clark. And it was a Bill Gunn written, produced, and co-starred film. And I remember always hearing about this movie, and I kind of just seen like parts of it, like little scene here, scene there. Probably most memorable scene that I remember seeing before I actually saw the movie is a shot of Dwayne Jones. He's leaving his house and he's, straightening his suit and he's buttoning his coat and everything like that. That was always one of the shots from the movie I always saw and everything. But I always heard about Ganja and Hess, and when Horror Noir documentary came out and they threw a whole part talking about Ganja and Hess, I was like, you know what? I think it's time I finally watched this freaking movie. So when I finally watched it and everything, and I was not expecting the film that I ended up watching. I thought it was going to be a normal vampire movie, but it's way more than that. Bill Gunn, he tells a story in a very unique and experimental way, because it's very much an art house movie. I almost want to say like 90% of the movie takes place at Dr. Hess's house, and everything. And so there was a lot of bold choices, and then when you get into the whole spirituality and symbolism in that movie, it very much ahead of its time. So like I said, 1973 is very much ahead of its time, and the fact that this was a black film that was going down this route was very much, different from anything that came out around that time. And even now you don't really get stories told exactly this way, and for some reason it does get lumped into the blaxploitation subgenre, but I feel like it doesn't really deserve being a part of the blaxploitation subgenre, because it's like I say, it's way more than that, because of, like say, the story that he tells with this. And just imagine if you're Dr. Hess and your friend pulls up on you, say, oh yeah, I'm coming to stay with you for a couple of days. Y'all have these philosophical type conversations, and then one night the friend, he decides to do like this blood ritual thing in the bathroom where he basically kills himself. But before that, he does something, that kind of turns you into a vampire, but you don't know it until you wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden, I can't be out in the sunlight affects me. I can't be out here like this, and why I need blood all of a sudden, type of thing. That'd be some messed up stuff. We really think about it. It's like, oh, so yeah, you my friend, all right, but this how you do me? You take yourself out, but then you leave me cursed and everything, and I got to try to navigate this on my own. And then his wife shows up demanding to know exactly where he is, and then you and the wife end up falling in love and have y'all thing. Like I say, it's a very deep, very thought-provoking type movie, and like I said, it's for the time period that movie came out, it goes way beyond anything before or even since. And I know Spike Lee did like his remake of it and everything. He gave it a different title. I forgot exactly what the title is, but I don't think it touches anything of what Bill Gunn did with his version, at least. So the next film I want to talk about is a movie that I have watched since I was a kid, and I'm talking about Near Dark, which came out in 1987. I mean, you have Adrian Pasdar as the main character of Caleb, but then you have Lance Henriksen, Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldston, and Jenny Wright as this traveling vampire clan that's like a family, basically. And you know, it's a very western. It has a very western vibe because it's like, I think it's in Texas. I've always assumed it was in Texas. I mean, it could be, hell, it could be Oklahoma for all I know. But cause I don't think they ever specifically say where they are, but it has a very, you know, western type landscape and vibe to it, and it's dealing with these vampires. And these vampires are very, they don't actually call themselves vampires. You never actually hear them called vampires, but the way they move is very vampire like. Plus they suck blood, and you know, they set people up to, you know, become victims and everything like that. And when one night when Caleb, he sees May, who is Jenny Wright's character, you know, coming out, he's like, wait, I gotta go see about a girl. And boy, did this girl, you know, get him in a blender, because from the moment he meets her and they hook up, it's like, oh, well, you one of us now. And you spend a big chunk of the movie with Caleb trying to, you know, he's trying to get his feet grounded with, now he's a vampire because she turns him. And then it's like, okay, how do I deal with this? But she's gonna help him along, and even to some degree the rest of the clan is helping him along, but at the same time he's still looked at as somewhat of an outsider. But even though he turns, it's like, yeah, I just want to be with this girl. I don't want to be doing a lot of this goofy stuff that we doing, you know, by, you know, taking people lives, you know, killing people and everything. So when things get out of hand and, you know, he has to, you know, kind of make a decision, especially when the younger brother, well, he's an old man, but he's still he's quote unquote May's younger brother, who actually in actuality, I think he was in love with May, but because he was stuck as a child, you know, they could never really be together. So when Caleb comes along, it's like, all right, so since you got May, I'm gonna go after your little sister and everything. When that becomes the whole thing, and Caleb like, all right, I gotta make a choice, my real family over my new family. And you get this whole, you know, crazy thing where it's like there's a fight. But one of my favorite scenes of the movie, and probably the scene that gets talked about a lot whenever Near Dark gets brought up, is that bar scene where they go in there and it starts out like, oh, it's just, you know, they just come in here, you know, they want to get some eat and, you know, get some drinks. But the problem is what they want to eat and drink is not on the menu. It's the people that's in the freaking bar. And Bill Paxton's character, I want to say that he is the shining light of this movie, because Bill Paxton's just having too much fun in this movie. And you can tell he's just having a lot of fun. And the music that plays in the background and just how they take out these people in this bar, like I say, it's a great scene. And like I say, it's one of my favorite scenes, not just in this movie, but just in movies in general. It's one of my favorite scenes. And the fact this was Catherine Bigelow's first film, and it's one of the reasons why I am a huge Catherine Bigelow fan of her movies and stuff, because I actually did an episode talking about Catherine Bigelow and everything a long time ago, and everything. But yeah, it's a very gritty movie. You have this romance story, and it's real violent. I mean, like I say, they don't shy away from anything. Like when it comes to them killing folks, and even in the bar when Caleb gets shot, based at point blank range with a shotgun, and they don't shy away from any of the violence really. And just like I say, it's always a favorite of mine. So, if you've never seen Near Dark, I do recommend you checking that one out as well. Next up, talk about 1995's Vampire in Brooklyn. Now, on the surface, yes, it is a silly horror comedy on the surface, but it's a lot more than that, because for one, it's directed by Wes Craven and it stars Eddie Murphy as the title character of Max, and everything. And I always thought it was interesting that this was the only time. It would have been nice if Wes Craven and Eddie Murphy would have did something else, but I always thought it was kind of interesting that this movie falls in between. It kind of falls in there with, like, around the time that Wes Craven does New Nightmare, and then right before he does Scream, you have Vampire in Brooklyn kind of nestled in there. And like I say, that fact that this movie, you think, like I say, on the surface, you think it's just a silly horror comedy, but because it's somewhat of a rework of Blackula, and everything, they do kind of go down, certain roads, but they do it in a comedic way. But because the whole thing is Max is a vampire, he comes to Brooklyn, very similar to how Dracula came, to him, went to Transylvania and everything. And he's looking for, his queen, basically, and in the form of Angela Bassett, who's supposed to be like a descendant of Max's wife, and everything. So that's why he wants her and everything, because like I say, it's basically a rework of Blackula / Dracula, is very similar to that, but like I say, with the whole comedy aspect, and it has a great cast. I mean, outside of Eddie Murphy, Angela Bassett, you got Alan Payne, you got John Witherspoon, you got Kadeem Hardison in this as well. It's a fun, over the top movie, but also too, like I say, it goes into talking about different things dealing with vampirism and how it can shapeshift and how can manipulate and everything. And I don't know, like I said, it's just a fun movie. And I know a lot of people, they kind of clown on Vampire in Brooklyn, but I think if you really watch it and watch it in a way of like get beyond the comedy part of it and really pay attention to what Max really got going on, and also what Angela Bassett character goes through in that movie. Like I say, it's a really good movie. And like I say, I was surprised that Wes Craven did this film, but it also falls into what I dub as his urban trilogy of films, and it's the last, unfortunately, of his urban trilogy, because I feel like he could have did more after this if he really wanted to. But I mean, when Scream became what it became, I can see why he just stuck to really doing the Scream movies. But yeah, it has a very interesting take on vampires and vampirism, and everything. So next up is actually a movie that came out a year after Vampire Brooklyn, and I'm talking about 1996's From Dusk Till Dawn. I mean, you get, at this point in time, you got Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, who were making huge names for themselves in film, and they decide to, we work together on Desperado, let's run it back, and Quentin, you gonna write the script, I'm gonna direct this bad boy, and we gonna get George Clooney, who was at that time known as a TV star for ER. Quentin, you gonna co-star in it. We're gonna get Harvey Keitel, we're gonna get Juliette Lewis, we're gonna get Cheech Marin to show up in 3 different damn parts throughout the movie. We're gonna get Fred Wilson, Tom Savini, and we're gonna put y'all in this club, and we're gonna get Selma Hayek to dance with this damn big ass snake, and then the insanity ensues, and y'all gonna have to try to survive the night type of thing. From Dusk Till Dawn is, like I say, it's funny how the movie starts out one way, because you got the Gecko brothers, they trying to get away after, after they did some nonsense, and they trying to get away and get to Mexico, get across the border to get to this bar called the Titty Twister, where they got to wait for Carlos, and everything will be good. So the first half of the movie, like I say, you thinking that it's like a crime thriller or whatever. I mean, the movie starts off with this insane shootout in this gas station with Sheriff Earl McGraw, who we see die and everything, but then in Planet Terror and Death Proof, he's still alive, and they never fully explain how that works, but whatever. So you get all that. They end up getting mixed up with Harvey Keitel and his family, Jacob and his family, because they're on vacation, and the fact that they're riding around in this RV, it makes it even better for them to, basically kidnap these people and take them across the border. They get across the border. They won. They get to the titty twister, and it's like, wait a minute, what is this place? And like I say, when insanity ensues and everybody for the most part start turning freaking vampires, it's like, if you human, look, you on the right side, because we gotta survive, and it didn't matter. So it is very much Night of the Living Dead ish, just dealing with vampires. I mean, you have a lot of fun with this movie, even though Quentin Tarantino is just a little too good at playing Richie Gecko, who's this schizophrenic, murderer and everything, and the underlying relationship that him and Seth have. Seth knows that his brother is not right, but Seth is trying to make himself believe that if he gets his brother to Mexico, then his brother will be all right. But it's like he's not fully, accepting the fact that, no, my brother's a psychopath, and he really either needs to be locked up somewhere or he needs to be put down. And it's interesting when Richie does get bitten by a vampire played by Selma Hayek, and everything, and he turns into a vampire. It is Seth, the one that does put him down in the end, and that is an emotional moment in the movie, and everything. But at the same time, the movie is very wild. It's over the top. The special effects, the practical effects, I should say, it's very good for what it is at the time and everything, especially when people transform. The only one I have an issue with is, what the hell was that they made Fred Williamson when he turns into a vampire? I don't know what the hell that he's supposed to be. What was that crap they put on his face? I don't know. But outside of that, everybody else, that when they turn to vampires, they look dope. And like I say, seeing Cheech show up at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the movie is kind of hilarious, because it's like, what the hell? He just popping up as these random ass characters throughout the movie, and everything. And probably one of the things that's best remembered from this movie is the whole dance sequence by Selma Hayek, because we talking about Selma freaking Hayek and everything. And when you find out in real life that she's actually afraid of snakes, it's like, how the hell did they get you to do that with? Because you doing this sultry ass dance with this big ass python over you, and you're afraid of snakes. Like, look, I don't like snakes either, but ain't no way in hell I don't care how much they say they're gonna pay me or whatever. I ain't doing nothing with no snake, especially if it's real. And that was a real snake too, so that's just insanity. But yeah, so that's From Dusk Till Dawn. Next, I want to talk about a movie that I actually saw at the movie theater when it came out. And this movie is very near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons. Because for one, I'm a fan of the lead actor. Two, it's a black superhero-ish type movie and everything. And I'm talking about 1998's Blade. I mean, this is a action movie, it's a vampire movie, and it's all fused as one. And it showed, I mean, it's one of the, and I'm only talking about at that time, it's one of the rare times that you had a black action movie that was a genre movie like this. And the fact that it represented, I mean, here you have Blade, who's this half vampire, half human, who fights crime, and the crime that he fights is against vampires. And they do put emphasis on the fact that, Blade is black, and everything, and it's ironic that in the movie, for the most part, all the vampires are white, and it's a very, like I say, it does a very good job of showcasing that, and I don't think too many people really think about it from that standpoint. But when you watch the first Blade movie, like I say, you got Deacon Frost and all them and everything that's a part of that vampire clan. You don't see no black people with them, but Blade is going against them, and the whole, you live, in a, basically what he tells Nick Bush Wright's character, who ironically she's black also, and it's like it's the good. It's funny, the good in the movie are black people and the bad in the movie are white people, and I don't know if they did that on purpose or whatever, but I always kind of noticed that and everything, and even pay attention more to that as I got older. But yeah, that's always been an interesting thing. And like I say, Wesley Snipes, he get to show off his martial arts skills, because people, I don't know if they really notice or pay attention to that, but Wesley Snipes really is a martial artist. I mean, he used to do I remember there was this special that he helped produce and everything on TNT years ago, that showcased like a lot of the martial artists and stuff, and them showing their skills and everything like that, and everything. And the fact that his Blade movie, when it came out, I mean, the story, of course, everyone knows this. Some people don't like to fully acknowledge it, but this is the movie that helped save Marvel, and which allowed for them years later to start the MCU. And the fact that the MCU is what it is now, and we still have not got that Blade film with Mahershala Ali, it kind of just tells you what a special talent Wesley Snipes was, and him returning as Blade in the Deadpool Wolverine movie, and him saying there's only one Blade. I mean, it's kind of true. And we're not going to include the TV series where Sticky Fingers, of all people, played the character, which that show is not a bad show. It's just there was no reason for Sticky Fingers to be playing that character, but I'm not going to go too deep into talking about that. But yeah, Blade is just a special movie, and the fact that you did get 2 sequels after it. The second movie, I really enjoy a lot. The third one, it had its issues, and I think me and a lot of the other fan base of the Blade character and the series, I think we all want, like a true conclusion to Blade's story with Wesley Snipes, and maybe that has something to do with why we can't ever get this movie with Mahershala Ali off the ground. I mean, he was cast as Blade like 4 or 5 years ago, and we still don't get this movie, and there's been people have dropped off from the movie. Directors, writers can't get this movie made. Maybe they should just go ahead and say, you know what, let's do Blade 4 with Wesley Snipes, and then we can make that transition to Mahershala Ali or even somebody else to take on the Blade mantle, especially since you have the whole multiverse thing in play, where Wesley can still be OG Blade, Blade Prime, whatever you want to call him. And then to go further, you get someone younger, because I think even at this point in time, I think Mahershala is too old if you want to actually have him be a part of the MCU for an extended period of time. I'm talking about the character, not necessarily the actor. Yeah, I think you should get someone a little younger, and everything. But yeah, I think Blade is just a dope movie, and it's a fun movie. And you just go on this insane ride with these vampires. And Stephen Dorff as Deacon Frost, you really hate him, which you're supposed to, but but like I said, you're supposed to hate him, but also he's kind of a cool villain at the same time, and everything. So yeah. So next up, another movie from back in the 80s, a movie I used to watch a lot as a kid also, And I'm talking about the Lost Boys. Now, Lost Boys has always been one of those vampire movies that I enjoyed to watch as a kid, because when you look at the two Corys, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, and everything, you kind of, I always say it like this: you either look at it through their point of view, or you can also look at it through Jason Patric as Michael's point of view, because he's the teenager or whatever, where, you know, y'all moving to this town and everything, because you're moving in with your grandpa and everything. And Michael, he, you know, him and Corey Haim, they're out, and Michael sees Star for the first time, and he is starstruck, I should say, because he's like, who the hell is that? And everything. And I'm, you know, you gotta admit, Jamie gets, I mean, when she was younger, I mean, she's still an attractive woman, but when she was younger, it's like, yeah, I see why Michael was lost in that sauce or whatever. But yeah, you know, you get mixed up, kind of similar to Near Dark. You know, I gotta go see about this girl real quick, and next thing you know, she got him in a blender, and then come to find out, oh, she's a vampire, and then she's a part of this clan, and she's supposed to be the girlfriend of Kiefer Sutherland's character, who is dastardly no good in this. And he's Kiefer Sutherland, well, Rufus, and that's an inside joke for anyone who, if you ever Google Kiefer Sutherland's full name, you understand why I call him Rufus. But you got him, and you got this whole clan of teenage vampires that's running amok on this town. And then Michael, he gets turned into a vampire, and then you have this whole split with the families. Like, Michael is, you know, he's falling into the whole vampire thing, but then he's still clinging on to his humanity with his real family. And his brother won't let him, you know, fully go, and he even doesn't really fully wants to become a vampire. You know, I just saw a pretty girl. Now I'm trapped where I'm floating and I'm sleeping upside down and crap like this, and, you know, only can come out, you know, after the sun goes down, or if I am out in the light, I gotta have on dark ass shades, and I almost look like I'm sick or whatever. That's the price you pay becoming a vampire, right? And you can't come out, you know, before the sun, you know, before the sun goes down, otherwise you're screwed, and everything. And like I said, it's a fun movie. You got the Frog Brothers, you know, who knows about vampires. They're vampire hunters per se until everything goes to hell. And then they kind of turn back into kids in a way, because it's like, oh shit, like, no, we thought, you know, it was one thing, but no, it's something completely different. And the fact that when they turn into vampires, they look, I mean, the special effects, I mean, that they, especially Kiefer, I would say Kiefer is probably the one vampire of the group that looks the best when he's a vampire, because he already looks sinister when he's just in regular human form, but when he turns into a vampire and he looks even more sinister and everything. And I just kind of like that. And the whole thing about those boys, well, the whole group really, but the four boys, it's Kiefer Sutherland and the other three, they actually are like missing. And that whole thing, because it's like, well, yeah, well, who turned them into vampires? Because you're thinking the whole time, oh, that David, and because they all changed their name. David is not his real name, but they all changed their name once they become vampires. So David is quote unquote the leader, but then you realize, like, no, if they were missing kids, they were human ones. Who turned them into vampires, right? And the whole thing, it kind of almost turns into somewhat like Fright Night, because you're trying to figure out who exactly turned them, and then when you find the big reveal at the end, it's like, oh, it was you. Like, okay. But for me, the funniest, I mean, I would say funniest, but like the best scene is actually the last line of the movie, and it's spoken by the grandpa, when it's like, yeah, one thing about Santa Clara is all the damn vampires. But which makes, like, you knew this whole time, you had us moving to this damn town. But yeah, it's just a fun movie, and I never watched any of the sequels, because I don't know why they thought it would be a good idea to make direct to video sequels of those movies, but they did. I never watched any of them. I always stick with the 1987 film and everything. So those are pretty much the movies I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit and revisit and everything. Like I said, getting ready for Sinners, because just from what I know of watching, like I say, the teaser trailer and the first trailer, I'm going into this movie blind outside of what I seen with the trailer. And the trailer doesn't give you a lot. It gives you just enough. And those are the type of trailers that I really enjoy. So, like I said, going into the movie, I don't know too much about anything, which is a good thing. But I am curious to how this film is going to fit into the vampire canon, because it's two things. It's a vampire movie, but also it's a period piece, because I believe it takes place in the 1940s. So it's a period piece. It's a vampire story. It's a predominantly black town, and it's all blended. It's going to be all blended in together. And then you have Ryan Coogler as the writer-director. You got Michael B. Jordan as a star. I mean, it has a great cast. You got Haley Steinfeld. You got Delroy Lindo. That's it. There's a lot of great actors and actresses going to be in this movie. And I'm actually hyped and pumped for this movie. And I hope anyone who enjoys vampire movies, or you're a fan of Ryan Coogler as a director, filmmaker, you're a fan of Michael B. Jordan, or anybody else in the cast, if you're a fan of them, I really hope that everyone goes out and see this movie on the big screen, because one thing about it, this isn't an original story, and that's one thing that people have been saying, that they want more originality, right? So here's your original story. It's a vampire story, but it's an original take on vampirism and everything. So I just hope people go out and support the movie. I'm definitely going to see it when it comes out. And probably for the next episode that I release, I would say not the exact next episode, but the episode after that, I'm probably going to dedicate some time in that episode to give my initial thoughts about seeing Sinners and everything. So, as always, before I get up out of here, I have a few questions for the listeners, for you guys. So, first question I have: which of the vampire movies that I mentioned is a favorite of yours? And everything. So you can definitely let me know, because as I post this because since I'm on YouTube now, J Movie Talk is on YouTube now. Get the full episodes on YouTube. You can actually comment your favorites over there. I post clips of the podcast on TikTok, as also I post little shorts from each episode on YouTube as well. So if you like I say, go ahead and follow me on YouTube, follow me on TikTok. Like I said, it's under J Movie Talk. You can find me very easy and everything. So that's the first question I'm asking. What is your favorite of these films? And also too, it doesn't even have to be one of these. What's your favorite, vampire film in general? What's your favorite from the list that I did? But also, what is your favorite vampire film overall? The second question I'm gonna ask: do you prefer your vampires scary, sexy, tragic, or chaotic, or maybe a blend of it all, some type of way, and everything? And then the last question I'm gonna ask: what do you want to see from the movie Sinners? Like I said, before the movie come out, what do you want to see? Like, is there something particular that you would love to see in the movie that you might not have seen in any other vampire film, or something that might have kind of popped up in a vampire movie, but you would like to see Sinners kind of, take it, even to that next level with whatever that particular thing is? So those are my questions for you guys. So again, the films that I talked about, like I said, I talked about Fright Night 1985, talked about Ganja and Hess 1973, Near Dark 1987, Vampire in Brooklyn from 1995, From Dusk Till Dawn 1996, Blade from 1998, and The Lost Boys, also from 1997. Those are the films I talked about. Had some time, talking about them. Share some of my reason why these are some favorites of mine, which I enjoy a lot and everything. And hopefully by you guys listening to this episode, it'll make you want to go back and revisit some of these films, or visit some of these films for the first time if you've never seen them and everything. So I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. Like I say, this is episode 331. I know in episode 330 at the end, I said that I would be back doing Critters 2, coinciding with Easter, which I still am. That will actually be episode 332 and everything, because the ironic thing is that you have Sinners coming out on Easter weekend, which I find that very interesting, that they decided to release it on Easter weekend. So that's why I want to do this episode. The next episode will be coming out, I want to say probably after Easter, but still is going to be Critters 2 that I'm going to review and everything like that. So maybe maybe on the Critters 2 episode, I might actually talk about Sinners. I'm not sure yet. But that will be the next episode. 332 will be Critters 2, to coincide with the whole Easter thing. So it's kind of a double whammy thing I got here. I got the vampire movie to come, that's coming out, and then I got the planned holiday themed episode that I want to do that's coming out. They're going to be relatively close to each other. So yeah, that is pretty much it for me. Like I said, thanks again for listening. Of course, you can find me on the socials. Of course, I'm on X at J Movie Talk. On my personal page, The J Giles. I'm on Instagram at JMT Podcast. The YouTube channel, which is J Movie Talk. I'm over on TikTok. That's J Movie Talk as well. You can find all of the J Movie Talk episodes, whether you go over to YouTube, since I'm posting all the newer episodes on YouTube. But if you want to go back through the archives and check out older episodes, we're part of the TV Zone Podcast Network, which you can just type in TV Zone Podcast Network wherever you listen to your podcast at, and you can find Movie Talk as well. The other shows are part of the network as well. Also, you can email me at jmovietalk@gmail.com if you have any comments, recommendations, whatever regarding the podcast. If you want to answer your questions through email as well, and everything, you can do that. And any emails that I get, I can read them on the show and everything. Again, thank you all for listening, and I will be back for episode 332, where I'll be talking about Critters 2. Till next time, peace.